All right, we are up to lesson 10. There are no new lesson notes today, so I'm going to get right into the examples. Consider the following unit circle. What are the clockwise measures of angles POQ and POR in radians? So angle POQ, we're going to deal with that one first. So POQ is this section of the circle right here. And notice it goes POQ, which makes it a counterclockwise rotation. Counterclockwise rotation means that this is a positive angle. And a positive angle, this angle is obviously going to be a positive 90 degrees. So angle POQ is 90 degrees. So now all we have to do, if we go back to lesson 9, we can go to our radian degrees calculator converter. So we're going to convert 90 degrees to radians, and that is 1/2 pi or pi over 2 radians. So 1/2 pi is the same as pi over 2. So that's how I'm going to write it. So angle POQ is 90 degrees, which is pi over 2 radians. Okay. Angle POR, let me use a different color here. Angle POR is this part of the circle, this section of the circle that I'm outlining in green. Notice it goes P to O to R, P to O to R. That is a clockwise rotation, which means that angle is going to be negative. So this is a 90-degree angle as well, but it's going to actually be a negative 90 because of the clockwise rotation. So angle POR is negative 90 degrees, which is going to be negative pi over 2 radians. So this right here is your answer to number 1. Number 2, label a point V such that the measure of angle POV is pi over 6. So for number 2, all right, pi over 6 radians. Okay, again, we're going to go back to our calculator, and now we're going to convert. Let me go back. We're going to convert pi over 6 radians, pi over 6 radians to degrees. So pi over 6 radians is 30 degrees. So we're going to label it so that we have a 30-degree angle. So this is 0. This is 90. So 30 is going to be about a third of the way there. We'll call that point V so that we have a 30-degree angle. Okay. Number 3. For which angle measures in radians between 0 and 2 pi is sine of x equal to 0? So, first of all, back on this diagram, we know that this is 0, 90, 180, and 270. Okay. The key is that they tell us that sine of x is 0. So sine of x being 0, what that means, let's go back to our lesson notes from lesson 6. Okay, sine of x, remember, sine in a unit circle is the same as y, according to our lesson notes here. So when they say that sine of x is equal to 0, what they're really saying is that y is equal to 0. So where is y equal to 0? Y is equal to 0 on the x-axis. It's going to be it's going to be, let me use a different color, this one right here and this one right here. Okay, because this coordinate is 1, 0, and this coordinate is negative 1, 0. Okay, they both have y values of 0. So for number 3, the values are, okay, let me separate these a little bit. Okay, so the values are 0 degrees and 180 degrees. Those are the angle measurements in degrees that have a sign of 0. So now I just got to convert those to radians. Well, 0 degrees is going to be the same as 0 radians. Okay. 180 degrees. 180 degrees. Let's go to our calculator. Okay. So we're going to convert 180 degrees to radians is pi radians. So to answer question number 3, for which angle measurements in radians between 0 and 2 pi is sine of x equal to 0, the two angle measurements are 0 and pi radians. Okay. So that's number 3. Okay. Number 4, for which angle measurements between 0 and 2 pi, so for which angle measurements between 0 and 2 pi is sine of x less than 0? How about when sine of x is greater than 0? So sine of x greater than 0. Again, we know that sine is the same as y. So sine of x greater than 0 means we want y to be greater than 0. And where is y going to be positive? Y is going to be positive in this range right here. So that's going to be between 0 degrees and 180 degrees. Okay. So in radians, that would be between 0 and pi radians. Okay. And then sine, so that would be sine of x greater than 0. Sine of x less than 0, again, means we want y to be less than 0. So for that one, I'm going to use a different color. So y less than 0 would be in this range right here. Okay, so that would be between 180 degrees and 360 degrees. So between 180 degrees and 360 degrees. So in radians, that would be between pi radians, and we have to convert 360 degrees to radians. So convert 360 degrees to radians. That would be 2 pi radians. So these are your answers to number 4. So sine is going to be greater than 0 between 0 and pi, and sine is going to be less than 0, excuse me, between pi and 2 pi. Okay. Now let's look at number 5. So let me erase this here. So for number 5, for which angle measures in radians between 0 and 2 pi is cosine less than 0? How about when cosine is greater than 0? So cosine, conversely, goes with x. We know that sine goes with y. So cosine of x being less than 0 means we want x to be less than 0. Where is x going to be less than 0? That's going to be the left half of the circle. This is where x is going to be less than 0. So we know that this is 90 and this is 270. So it's going to be between 90 degrees and 270 degrees. So we just have to convert those to radians. So convert 90 degrees to radians. So again, that would be pi over 2. And then convert 270 degrees to radians. That would be 3 pi over 2. So to answer the first part of number 5, for which angle measures in radians between 0 and 2 pi is cosine less than 0, that's going to be between pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. Okay. So for the second half of the question, where cosine of x is greater than 0, cosine of x greater than 0, it means we want x to be greater than 0. So if x is less than 0 on the left-hand side of the circle, then if we use a different color, x is going to be greater than 0 on the right half of the circle. Okay? So this will be between 0 and 90 and 270 and 360. So this part, the top part is going to be between 0 and 90. Okay. So in radians, we had already discussed that 90 degrees is pi over 2. So that's this first half right here, this first quarter right here. And then the bottom right is going to be between 270, which we said was 3 pi over 2. Again, if you're not sure, just go here and see we have it here. 270 is 3 pi over 2. And then we had said that 360 before, okay, we had said 360 before was 2 pi. So this would be between 3 pi over 2 and 2 pi. So to answer that part question, how about when cosine is greater than 0? It's going to be between 0 and pi over 2 and between 3 pi over 2 and 2 pi. So these two ranges right here. So if you missed any of the answers from 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 5, there are your answers here. And that is it for lesson 10.